Hi, this is Carrie Goetz. I am the CTO of StrategITcom and a three-time Amazon best-selling author with some books about data centers. And I have done kind of everything in the IT data center tech industry that you can do, from construction to the cloud and all things in between. And I've written about it. So hopefully we can help get you guys started on a new path today.
You're watching Success, Motivation, and Inspiration, where we share interviews with incredible leaders who are crushing it in life and business.
Hey, welcome back to Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. Today we're with Carrie Goetz from StrategITcom. And Carrie, I'm so glad to have you on the show. Just really excited to have somebody that, as we're researching, looking at you before the interview here, you've done so much as far as giving back, not only having incredible experience in anything with technology and data centers, but also that you're giving back and doing all these things to help bring the new generation into this career field. What got you originally what originally sparked your interest in technology and data centers?
My first degree was in architecture, so it wasn't really my plan to go this route. But then I started teaching architecture in college, and then CAD came along. So CAD brought in the computer element, the technology element, and I really got bit by the learning bug. And with everything in tech, there's something you can learn every day. And for people that are kind of lifelong learners that have that drive and that kind of thing in them where they get bored really easily, it's a great career because it does. It changes, it evolves. And for me, the really great part about it and the thing that kind of lit my fire is not what technology can do for us, but how we can make technology do what we want it to do so that we're not a slave to technology, but rather we're using the best bits. We're figuring out how it can improve our lives and things that it can do to make our lives better.
It's hard to be a know-it-all in technology because as soon as if you knew everything that was available to be known today, tomorrow you're outdated again, huh?
Without a doubt. I've probably forgotten more than I ever knew. So there's that.
Now, your career spans over 40 years in technology, right?
Absolutely. All over the planet. I have millions of miles doing projects all over the globe.
That's incredible. Now, I would not have asked that if you looked like you had 40 years in tech, but that's something people may have to go back and see a copy of your birth certificate to see if that's actually
Well, you're kind. I started when I was 5. Just kidding.
That's awesome. What inspired you to write the? I mean, I know you've published a bunch of books, but Jumpstart Your Career in Data Centers. What got you started on that?
For me, here's the thing. A few different reasons. So it features careers for women, trades, and vets in tech. It applies to everybody, but there's extra resources for those three. But here's the thing. For me, especially the data center industry, we don't really have a curriculum for it. So there's a few college campuses that have some capstone projects. There's 2 data center programs worldwide that people can jump onto. But as a whole, data centers are sort of an afterthought, despite the fact that that's where technology lives. It is the home of technology. And so most of the way that people learn in this industry is through mentorship, asking questions, apprenticeship programs, nationwide apprenticeships. And I'm a firm believer that we have to meet people where they want to learn. And so figuring out, if I were to come to you and say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, what would you think of a career in data centers? The first thing you would think is, huh? Right? If you've never heard of them, that's very common. Unless you have somebody in your family that works in a data center or somebody in your inner circle, you probably don't know what it is. And so beyond that, not knowing what a data center is, you don't know what it is, you're definitely not going to know what the jobs are, the career opportunities, the career possibilities. And the other thing is when you start in the industry, because there's no real college dive in, it's all on the job learning. So what a horrible thing to do to hire somebody new, put them on the job and say, here's one product out of the billions that support this entire giant ecosystem. Now go eke out a living. I think that's a horrible disservice to people. And I certainly saw it with a lot of young women because it is a male-dominated industry. There's a lot more women than there used to be. But certainly years and years ago, I'd speak at a conference, there was 3 of us, right? So helping people understand and get that good level footing on the ground, right? If you understand the ecosystem, you understand the data center world, you understand the stuff around you, you'll be more successful. When I wrote the book, the attrition rate for women in data centers was 67%. Not that leave their job, that leave an entire industry, despite the fact that they have really, really great applicable experience that they can take to another job where they're going to make more money because they will be joining as an experienced professional, not an inexperienced professional. And then you take all of the people in the trades, electricians, all of those people that don't want to go to college. How are they going to get exposed to this industry? And so I thought, it's a great way to pay forward all the mentorship and all of the knowledge that people gave to me over the years, because that's how we learn in this industry. We learn from each other. And what a better way to pay it forward than just put it down in a book that can be read over the weekend, which was a big goal of the book, right? I mean, there's another book out there on the industry. It's 900 pages, and nobody's going to read that before they go on a job interview. The idea is to have enough to fire that spark, to ask that question, to draw that interest in and help set somebody else up for success.
Well, and the difference between your books and trying to read a 900-page book on data centers, if you're not already an expert in the field, for most, I would guess for a ton of young folks, a 900-page book is like trying to read the Bible cover to cover. They're going to go, that's something I wish I knew, but
It happened.
I am too afraid to get into that because it's just such a huge book. So that, I mean, is that part of just spark that interest? Is that part of what you think helps them be more interested in?
The book covers the entire ecosystem, everything from how to know where you're going to put a data center, what the building construction looks like, the pieces and parts inside, all of the jobs that support that, the IT side of that, but in a very condensed, non-technical way. The technical terms are in there, they're defined. So if you hear them, you don't get that deer in the headlights look. But more importantly, it's the concept of this is what that is and what it does for you, right? Take cooling, for example. Data center, you can cool a data center in a whole bunch of different ways. But really what you need to know is that you're rejecting heat and you're giving it an environment where it can work so that we don't overheat the facility. Now, beyond that, we can figure out what works better, air or water, but we can break it down to pretty simple components so that you have that basic understanding. And I can tell you, having been on the propeller head side of the business for my career, when you sit down with somebody new on a sales call or somebody that's new to their career or even a customer that's new in their job, and you start talking about things, the conversation gets derailed when terms come up that people don't understand and it kind of goes flat. Well, my thought was, what if you could fill in those gaps with enough knowledge that they could ask a question, right? Or just say, well, I don't understand, but how does that compare to so-and-so? Now you've got that foundation where you build that knowledge, and you build that knowledge in that environment where you're going to learn and you're going to be able to touch things hands-on and see about it. And so for me, I think it's really just, people go read a self-help book on how to unstuff yourself. That's not the name of that book, but there's lots of those out there, right? Well, how about reading one that's kind of a common sense, how to boost your career a bit? And so that's really where I took from that. And then from there, there's scholarship references. If you want to get a degree in it, there's places you can do that. If you want to go get certified, there's resources in there that'll tell you how to get certified, how to get those paid for. If you take a single mother, a certification is a life-changing event for her. It is the ability to feed her family at a very different level, or a young man or a veteran coming out of the service, right? Or a tradesperson that has learned a trade. Now, where do I go apply that skill? So all of those are places that people could get hooked in and really just kind of fine tune where they are. And then once you see the things around you, maybe if you don't like where you are right here, maybe right here is your sweet spot. That's your lane. Or maybe that's your lane, but at least you have that exposure and enough knowledge to sort those things out and ask those kind of questions.
That's awesome. And then you've had, one of the things that I noticed that I recognized about you when we were doing the research was you've published books. One of them looks like it's targeted more towards young women, where it says the title was Polly Packett's Precious Payload, All Smiles to the Data Center, Jumpstart Your Career in Data Centers. What is that book? What's the age range that you're targeting with that?
So that's a young children's book. So funny story. When I wrote Jumpstart Your Career in Data Centers, that's kind of for everybody, right? So that's anybody from probably junior high up. And then wrote an educator's reference to help teachers add it to their classroom plans. And then a friend of mine went to go read a children's book, or went to go talk to her kids' school about data centers. And the teacher told her that data centers were not on the curriculum, so she couldn't do that, but she was welcome to read a book about farts, quite literally. Yeah. So I said, well, that's kind of awful because, here's a career day example. We can talk about how things move in the internet. Kids grow up with a device in their hand, but they have no idea how that magically shows up on the screen. They have no idea how it gets there. They don't know how things travel the internet. So I thought, well, if we had a children's book on that subject, instead of reading about gas, we could read about how things get to the data center and what that means. And we can start opening these minds up for career possibilities. Most kids figure out what they want to do in life by the time they're 7 or 8 years old. Well, if they have no exposure to these careers, by the time they're 7 or 8, they're not considering these careers. And they may wait and fall in it later in life. And most people in this industry, if you do a poll, probably 80% of the people will still tell you they fell into this career. It was not a designed plan for them to go in the data center industry because they just don't have that exposure. So if we expose kids much younger, then we can kind of set that up. Do you like construction? Awesome. Here's a field that you can go into. You can construct data centers. You can build the place where data lives, all of those kind of things, and set up some of those. So I thought it was just kind of a fun way to do it. And it was a lot of fun writing the book.
That's awesome. Now you do consulting as well. If somebody's trying to set up their own data center.
So yeah, I have millions of miles all over the planet designing white space and data center, auditing data centers, helping people figure out how to implement new technology, how to get their stacks aligned. The thing with being a fractional CTO is that a lot of companies have a CTO or they don't have a CTO at all because they don't have the money for a CTO. And so what they need is for somebody to come in, help them set up what they're going to do, figure out what that footprint's going to look like. Are they going to be in their own data center? Are they going to be in a new one? Are they going to repurpose part of the data center for some AI applications? How are they going to bring these things on board? And so the fractional piece of that is we go in, help companies sort those kind of things out. We do a ton of technical writing, help getting very intricate technology worded in a way that the consumer can grasp and understand those topics, but also helping people set up their data center in the right way, conforming to standards, figuring out how all the pieces and parts fit together, what that design's going to look like. And so we do that on a very curated basis, but I have had a great career doing that, literally all over the planet. I mean, that is one cool thing about working in data centers. They are all over the globe. So if you want to see the world, it's a great way to do it on somebody else's dime.
Now, I've had a developer on staff, a CTO on staff since 2006 or 2007. He's actually transferred companies with me as I launched new businesses, but I've just had him on basically a retainer where paying him monthly, he'll go 90 days, sometimes it's months without him having to touch anything. And then there's other times where he's been being paid for months and now we go, hey, Susanthar, we got a mess here. He's working for 12, 14, 18 hours in a row. Just maybe he'll bring on a couple other guys to help him. But is that something you offer as well, as or you can just be put on type of a retainer type of?
That is the fractional piece of it. Yep. So we do have some customers that are under retainer. Some customers are under retainer for 3 to 6 months, and then that's it. And then they call as needed after that. So that's kind of the point. And I really think that a lot of companies, if you look at the way startups are, smaller companies, even medium and large enterprises, there's always that time when you need an extra influx of talent, whether it's because you're challenging what your people know, you're giving them room to grow, you need some of that knowledge transfer from somebody from a different area. Maybe you are in charge of supervising an IT department, but you're not a technical person. And you need that liaison just to double check. And honestly, sphere of influence is a whole lot of what happens in technology. It's what you've been exposed to. That's what you're going to implement. And there's so many options out there, really being able to do things like compare the different solutions, the best one for the company up to the top, because what's right for company A may not be right for company B. It might work, but it might be a waste of money. It might be a waste of maintenance costs. It might not fit the solution based on the power for the facility. I mean, there's a lot of things that come into play that just having that extra pair of eyes certainly helps.
Now, if you're watching this right now on Amazon Fire TV, or if we end up featuring you in Newswire magazine, scroll down to the bottom. There'll be call to action. There'll be links throughout. You click that, it'll pull you down to a call to action at the bottom where you can go get to the landing page where you can buy Carrie's books or get in contact with her, maybe schedule a consultation call. We'll have that all set up. But if you're watching this right now on Amazon Fire TV on a newer TV, pause it, scroll down, click the link, You can actually order her books directly from the Amazon Fire TV and have that sent directly to your Android or iPhone or tablet, whatever you prefer reading on. I think there's a lot you can get out of connecting, and you don't have to be in the tech industry to gain some serious value from reading her books and getting in contact with Carrie.
And they're on Audible too, if you'd rather listen.
Oh, that's awesome. I am a huge Audible fan. That's my university driving down the road everywhere I go. So,
I get these emails from people all the time that said, we really liked your book, but then we got Audible, and it's so much better because you can listen and follow. And Audible has author notes, so there's all kind of extra little Easter eggs in there. So makes it pretty good.
Now, one of the really cool things that I saw, you've been recognized as one of the most influential women in tech. What does that mean to you? And also, can you list off some of the awards and accolades you've received recently?
So I have received a Lifetime Achievement Award from Data Center World for my work in tech. That was the inaugural award. I have received the Women in Bixby Award, quite a few Lifetime Achievement Awards lately, which just means I've had a lifetime in the industry, I think. For me, the best rewards I get are when somebody writes and says, hey, your book made a world of difference to me. I got a great job. Could you answer this? Or if a teacher calls and says, I have a class that's super excited about tech. Can you dial in and zoom in and talk to our classroom and get the students fired up? Those to me are the biggest rewards, honestly, is just being able to bring that new generation into this field that, for me, it's been an amazing career that I've had. I've met and have extended family all over the planet. I have learned amazing things about culture, people, and all of that because of tech, not due to tech, right?
You mentioned also talking about how you try to make stuff easy easy to understand. And I've heard it said, there's a common saying about how a genius can make something difficult sound easy to understand, and somebody who wants to sound smart can make something that's pretty easy to understand sound extremely difficult. So I love that you're not using that to self-glorify and try to sound like you're smarter than everybody else. I mean, you obviously are smarter than the average person that you talk to
in
on a
some
day-to-day
ways, right?
basis,
They're smarter than me in other ways. We all have.
But I love that you're doing that using your knowledge and the information and experience you've gained to help other people and solve problems and help them actually maybe create a career that could last them the rest of their life.
I had a CEO years ago that called me the queen of analogies. He was probably one of the least technical people you would ever meet, hates technology. He would much rather shake your hand, look you in the eye than type you an email all day, every day. And that lesson to me, he said, wherever I go, you will go because you're the queen of analogies and you can make me understand the technical things. And I thought, what a great thing to be able to do because not everybody gets it. When I was teaching college, I learned that seeing in 3D is a gift. And so in front of my classroom, I had Legos and Play-Dohs because people that see one side and the other side can't necessarily tell what the top will look. That is a gift. Being able to understand technology and the way that it works shouldn't be a gift. It should be pretty easy. It's not rocket science. I mean, unless you're sending a rocket up, which, by the way, that was super cool. But it shouldn't be rocket science, right? You should be able to know enough to figure out where you want to go. You should be able to know enough to figure out which piece you want to learn more about. And there's all kinds of places that you can learn that for free. I think that all of those should be accessible to anybody that wants that knowledge.
This interview is sponsored by Newswire magazine. We celebrate the entrepreneurs and thought leaders shaping the future. Those who don't just adapt, but innovate. Who inspire others to think bigger, lead boldly, and create lasting change. Only a select few are featured in Newswire magazine. And for those who earn a place on the cover, the opportunities are unmatched. Your story shared with a global audience. Your achievements celebrated on national billboards, reaching millions. Every leader has a story. Every vision deserves a platform. Who will rise to the top? Stay tuned. You're witnessing greatness unfold.
Hey, welcome back to the show. You're watching Carrie Goetz on success, motivation, and inspiration. Carrie, you've helped a ton of different companies, different types of businesses. What type of companies benefit most from your expertise as a fractional CTO?
It's not really a vertical, I don't think, that that benefits. I think the people that benefit the most are the ones that are hungry to pull in a technology to make it work for them and figure out the best way to do that. And certainly my thing with technology is that everything is a tool in a tool belt, right? I'm not going to use a hammer where I need a screwdriver. I'm not going to, so for me, it's a matter of figuring out the right tools and pieces with the goal that you have in mind. So for instance, one of the things that we do a lot is requests for information, or RFIs, where we take companies that, 6 or 8 companies that have a solution that works for a product. And then we do a set of, this is what we want. What are our options? What can we get beyond that? Because a lot of times you don't even know those options are available. And when you see those options, then you see something else that now aligns better with your business in a different area. We bring in the stakeholders from all the different departments, interview them. And the idea is to try to get something that takes the least amount of manipulation to do exactly what people want, whether that's a piece of hardware or a piece of software or a methodology around the hardware and software, or just a simple knowledge transfer. So for me, as far as the ones that are most successful from a design perspective, when it's a clean slate of paper and nothing is done all the way through, holy cow, we've got a mess and I just inherited this garbage pail, and how do I take out the trash kind of thing? Those are the people I think that really are best suited for a fractional CTO. It's not designed to be a full-time CTO. It's designed to get you that technical advice where you need. It's like going to a specialist when you go to a doctor, right? You don't need to see your doctor every day, but when you do need your doctor, you need your doctor. So that's kind of the same thing with a fractional. It really, where you're trying to realign your business goals and you're trying to set your technology to work for you, that's really where a fractional CTO, I think, has the best benefit.
What is one common mistake that companies make that ends up with their data centers that end up costing them big time?
I would say, can I do 3 quick?
Sure.
So number 1 would be free equipment. I see all the time where people move into a data center space and that data center says, hey, Mr. Procurement person, we have all these leftover cabinets and stuff. We'll knock off your lease if you'll take these. And they take those and they find out that they don't support the weight of the equipment. There was no due diligence. So trying to do big things with cheap things never works. I would say right-sizing your environment is another big one that I see. People either overbuy or underbuy, and then they're stuck. And so understanding where you want to go as a company, if you buy a solution that's good for this many users and it can't grow to this many users, but you know that your company is going to grow to that many users, you're shooting yourself in the foot to start. And I think the last one is finding a solution that you like because your buddy liked it, and then you have to re-engineer your business to make that solution work. I think really you have to put in the diligence up front to figure out what you want, your trajectory path, and then find something that's going to grow with you for that 5 years. And then, in 5 years, most people change that out or do something different anyway, at least on the hardware side, certainly not on the software side. But, figuring out exactly what that trajectory is, and knowing how you can right-size your solution. Sometimes you may need to downsize that solution. We see all the time now, people are, companies are downsizing, they're moving resources around. What can you use your technology stack for? And now that we're implementing AI and using AI for some things, what can we use AI for that we take the mundane routine stuff out so that we free up these brilliant minds we hired to be brilliant?
That's powerful. Now, I wish I could have hired you back. I wish I should have known you, could have at least had a consulting call with you with businesses that I've built over the years. I have wasted, wasted ungodly amounts of money because of seeing, having a call with somebody or talking to a buddy that owns some kind of other business, and they loved their, whatever the software or plugins or whatever the junk was. And then end up spending so much time, money, wasted opportunities, exactly like you said, trying to make our business fit this platform. So once we got a developer on staff that's, like I said, worked for me for years, and he's one of those, it sounds a lot like you, where he only works for us, but it's a kind of a retainer thing. And he's old enough now that he's just enjoying time and traveling. And then when it's time for him to work, then he has to get at it. But but that would have been such a great thing to have somebody like you that I could have gotten in contact with. Is that something? Could somebody schedule a discovery call with you and get on the list and just kind of figure out if you're somebody that could help them, and then in the future have you in their Rolodex?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to carriegoetz.com or strategicom.com and hit that contact me button, I'm happy to set up a consultation. I will also tell you this. One of the things that I very intentionally did through COVID is that I set up a great partner network of other small to medium enterprise companies that we all sort of looked out for each other. Instead of hiring people and then having to turn around and lay them off, we've built this a massive framework of people in all different walks of life. So if I'm not the right person, there's a darn good chance I know the right person, or I can get you to somebody that does know the right person. So we can get you referred out to somebody that can sort your problem out. But yeah, please reach out if you want. If you're an educator, you want somebody to talk to your classroom about data centers and IT, also please reach out. Happy to do that.
Now, you've designed and audited countless IT departments. What is the number one thing that businesses should focus on to future-proof their technology?
Ooh, two things. One, have a plan of where you're going to go, right? That always helps. Make sure that you have all your business continuity, disaster recovery, you keep those up. But the biggest thing that you can do as a company to make sure that you carry forward with great IT products, hardware, software, is take care of your staff. Do the right thing. Send them to the trade shows. Make sure that they get to see the new products. Make sure that you invest in knowledge transfer on any RFP, RFQ, RFI you do. Make sure that you support your people. Your people will stay with you. Replacing people is crazy expensive. I can't tell you the number of times where I've seen a department roll over and a new person come in and all of a sudden they want to clean house, bring in all new staff, all new equipment, all new everything, which is very, very disruptive to a business. So honestly, there's a lot of competition for your people. And if you're giving your people cost of living raises and they're worth 50% more in the marketplace now that they have 5 years experience, you need to be able to belly up to that 50% and try to keep that continuity in your systems. And on the other side, understand where you have dead weight. If systems aren't working for you, if people aren't working for you, make that change and make that adjustment. Either get them some different training, figure out a different place for them. Same thing with the hardware. If it's not working for you, donate it. Give it to one of these tech schools. We're working on national apprenticeship programs right now for all kinds of kids and pre-apprenticeship programs, getting them in there. All of these programs need used equipment and stuff. So if it's not working for you, work with an ITAC, get it to some place where it can do some good. But understand, that's the biggest thing. You have to say and evaluate, this is not working for us. And I say the same thing with vendor relationships. If you're working with vendors every year, you should do a vendor report card. What are they doing for me? Are they being an active business partner in my business? Or are they just selling me parts? Because anybody can sell you parts. And if that's all you're after, reevaluate that on a cost basis. If you want somebody that's a business partner that's going to bring that knowledge, and actually be a participant in your business, take care of those relationships, but make sure that they don't start taking advantage of you. That reevaluation, I think, is a huge, huge part.
One of the things that might have been easy to just skip over on that, for people that are listening to this, if you're comparing two different parts vendors with us when we had the retail stores and telecom company, I trained a young guy. I think he was 16 when he started working for us. Homeschool kid, became our national purchasing agent over the years. But one of the things that we talked about a lot was, just because one of two or three vendors supplies the cheapest parts or solution or whatever it is that you're pricing out, if you've got another guy that is another vendor that's willing to give that input and tell you, hey, maybe there's a better option. Hey, maybe you can save some money on this. Then it's not just pricing the parts. The person that's giving you the input is a huge thing there to not be wasting money on junk you don't need for infrastructure on.
Well, and any business that's not asking for options is selling themselves short. Because honestly, especially if you're working with vendors that have multiple solutions and other things, or even add-ons to the solution you're already buying, if you don't know they exist, it could be something that's doing really good for you. So one of the things that we always do when we do RFPs or RFQs is, if you see any option for improvement, let us have that. And that's part of the evaluation criteria. What options did they give us? If they just priced parts and gave us no options, that we know they're just pricing parts, right? if they have options, those options definitely make a difference.
Now, what's your advice for somebody that's listening to this right now? Maybe it's them, or maybe they've got a kid that is looking to break into the tech center or data center industry. What advice would you give them to get started?
I would say, kind of figure out the industry, talk to some people that are in the industry, send me an email. I'm happy to email you back, happy to have a chat. But there's lots of places that you can find find that information, but join these professional associations. If you go to the resources page on my website, there's all kinds of professional associations. Most of them have student chapters that are free. With those student chapters, a lot of times it covers, there's scholarships involved and other things. But it's a great way. We have people in the industry that bring their kids to trade shows, which is so cool, right? What a great way to expose the next generation to the depth and breadth of what this industry is. But I think, if you're in the industry, make sure we have groups set up for vets, for women, for trades, for all of these people. Reach out if you need a place to land. There are a million people that will help you. That is one thing that I will say I think we've done better in this industry than any other industry that I know of. And part of it was out of necessity, is this grassroots supporting each other movement. We have so many groups that are set up to do exactly that. Fall in one. You will find lots of people that will take care of you, mentor you, help you. If you need an introduction to one, happy to make one.
Now, what role could companies play in, or what could they do better as far as attracting women and veterans in tech roles?
I think a big part of it is making these jobs visible to women and to vets, right? One of the biggest competitors we have for getting veterans in this industry is the military, because the military wants to re-up everybody, right? Of course. But we all know there's people that are transitioning. There's lots of outreach for different things to do. And people don't realize that, our veteran community are some of the best at construction on the planet. We construct data centers that we can't build them fast enough. So what a great place to jump off. So I think, if you're in any of those roles, again, reach out to these same people. There's a million of us that are happy to make those introductions and find you that landing spot that will take care of making sure that, you have introductions to jobs. We do different fairs and things for veterans. There's different ones that we do all over the globe through a lot of these associations. Get involved in some of those. I mean, there's certainly great places to do that. And if you anybody that needs a referral, I'm happy to make that. Shoot me an email.
Now, you've written multiple books and spoken on stages worldwide. What is your biggest message that you would like people to take away from your talks?
I think the biggest thing is you're responsible for unlocking your own potential. And nobody's going to do that for you. Nobody's going to hand you a career. You have to take an active role in what you want to do and what you want to put forward and figure out where your passion is. And you're probably not going to find it the first time. Look at anybody my age. We've all had multiple jobs. Some of them were great, some of them not so great for one reason or another, right? Don't let a failure kick you out of the industry. Use that experience, find another outlet for that talent, find another outlet for your passion, and ask a lot of questions. There's one of the things I think that people are afraid to do is ask other people questions, but that's how we all learn. Nobody knows what you don't know. And I would say most mentorships fail because the mentee doesn't ask questions. And mentors aren't mind readers. Just because they're your mentor doesn't mean they know what you want. So you have to take that active role and realize that there's a million people that will help you. If the first 3 don't, go to number 4. It might be the best one. And you're going to have different mentors for different things in your career, different pieces, because everybody's circle is different. So you're going to have exposure to different people that can curate different parts of your life. But be an active participant. If it's not working, do a little mirror economics. It's really, really important. I hear women say, well, it happened because I was a woman. And my thing is, did you do the mirror economics? I totally stole that from Terry Bradshaw, but I love that expression, right? Think about that. What was your role? How could you have reacted differently? How could have you, instead of just, really vilifying the other person, how could you have made that a better communication moment between the two where you could say, man, that was kind of a jerk thing to say, because they probably didn't realize it was a jerk thing to say because the last person they said it to didn't take it that way. So I think,
unless they meant to be a jerk, but most people don't.
Right? Yeah. So I think we have to kind of get off of ourselves from a, judging other people moment and be more curative in our relationships and our responses. And if you're kind enough to ask, people will be kind enough to help. And the only stupid question is really one that doesn't get asked. And, if you're holding back a stupid question, you're not helping the other people around you. They're too scared to ask that question. So shout it out.
Now, you covered this a little bit already, but if you're a mentee working with a mentor, maybe you're a college student working with a professor trying to learn some type of something about technology. If you don't know the questions to ask, is that something where, how do you even figure out what you need to ask in something where maybe the mentor's not teaching you?
It's kind of why I wrote the book. But there's lots of places you can find out, right? So when you go to my book, there's also things called MOOCs. If you've never heard of MOOCs, it's massive open online courses. It's the same classes they teach in college, but they're free. You don't get college credit for them, but you also don't pay for them. So if there's some subject that kind of captures your attention, go look at a YouTube video, go look at a MOOC, go figure out what it is, do a little self-study. You don't have to pay somebody to enrich your mind. You can do that yourself in a lot of different ways. And again, just be involved. If you are a mentee and you're working with a mentor, and I've mentored a lot of people, and some work really well. And the mentor says, I think you should try this, this, and this. And you come back 2 weeks later and you've done none of that. Well, what you're really telling the mentor is that you don't value their knowledge or their time or their opinion. So you have to be that active participant. And I think that, especially nowadays, because we're so curated with everything being in the palm of your hand, right? If I want to know anything, I go ask Grok, hey, Grok, what is blah, 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 right? Grok is great. Or whatever AI engine you're using for whatever that curated thing is. We're used to just having information flown at us from a machine, but we have to realize that we have to have that same mentality from human relationships. You want to know, you got to ask for it. You can't just assume that somebody's going to know that you have that need. And I think setting up those mentorship and mentee relationships, part of that, those first few meetings is what are our expectations? What are our time commitments? How often are we going to meet? What are we going to talk about? What are these things that are going to come up? Because you might have one mentor for business relationships and another one for more of the little nitpicky stuff that you need to know for your job, like reporting or some of those things. So some might be soft skills, some might be career skills, and you might have multiple ones. But again, you have to be an active participant in your destiny. And I think that you have to not jump to being a victim first, and you have to be triumphant first, and you have to figure out what's getting you not to that triumphant stage. And whatever that hurdle is, that's your sweet spot for what you need to work on, because there's nothing you can't achieve. We just have to achieve it differently, right? Some people are going to learn one way. Some people learn it another, like that CEO that said, you're the queen of analogies. I can tell him how things work 3 or 4 times. The 5th time, he might get it. Sometimes the 2nd time, he might get it. And then you learn from those relationships how to better present that material. And that's a lot of it, too, I think, is in the presentation. But be that master of your own destiny. There's nobody that's going to sort you out like you're going to sort you out.
Powerful advice. You've been listening to Carrie Goetz, again, from StrategITcom, Fractional CTO. She's written books, a whole bunch of great information. If you're watching this right now and this has piqued your interest, scroll down, click, grab a copy of her book on Amazon, whether it's Amazon or Audible, print, Kindle version, whatever. But get in contact with Carrie if you think there's any possibility that being involved in data centers or technology is something you're interested in doing. I think this is going to be a huge thing. I've really enjoyed this conversation, Carrie. Thanks again.
Me too, Curtis. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. This episode was designed to help you level up. See you next time.